This short clip is from my live trading room. You can engage directly with my fabulous team and me at LaDucTrading.com for all our research and trades. Or for just my daily live streams, you can access via YouTube memberships. All links are in the description. I have put together a write-up for you just so you can take a look under market thoughts. With this going nowhere fast theme of last week, where literally we really did just chop sideways in a pretty tight range. Intraday, we had some volatility, but big picture, we just closed out a mere 39 points higher than the Friday before. Intel was the big surprise, but U.S. government as venture capitalist has been a strong theme of mine, and Intel is part of it. So they definitely crushed earnings. And this week we have a whole bunch coming up, which is very key. Maybe you know, maybe you don't, but we have 4 of the hyperscalers reporting on Wednesday, along with Qualcomm. And by the way, Qualcomm gapped up beautifully Intel's beat. They will also be reporting with Mag 4. And then we also have on that day, by the way, I think they're going to do pretty well. I think we also have Fed Day. It happens to be kind of nothing is really expected. Okay, no cuts. They don't have consensus. No hikes. Inflation pass-through is still manageable. But it is Fed Powell's last press conference as Fed chair. The movement is proceeding with Kevin Warsh, nominee in front of the Senate hearing, because Tillis got his way. Senator Tillis got the removal of the charges by the Department of Justice against Powell. So someone stood up to Trump. Just so happens he's retiring, so he had very little to lose in that regard. And they backed down. But Powell will probably stay on. We'll see how that goes. In other words, he has a position as a governor that I have mentioned for a long time that he would probably stay because he wants to be on that decisioning board during the Trump turmoil. So he's likely going to stay on unless he gets fired, but I doubt it. So here we go. Hyperscalers, all of them reporting this week are going to be key. And the growth has been outsized, helping the rally. The fundamentals, of course, help the rally, but mostly the mechanical flows and the short covering and the ceasefire headline helped get this outsized rally. Anyway, hyperscalers are definitely going to indicate to the market if this pull forwarding of growth is warranted or not. So any sign of worry in this infrastructure spending and AI or supply shocks from the Iran war would be market moving. So this is a big week. I mean, we got the 4 hyperscalers and then Apple on Thursday. Here's some economic data for the week ahead. It won't be as impactful as what the hyperscalers say because this AI rally is so important. But we also have Bank of Japan Monday meeting, no hike. They will eventually. And then Thursday morning, we have an inflation read through that the Fed likes, but Kevin Warsh doesn't use this because it's too high. He likes a lower one. So he's moving the goalposts. We'll get into that another time. Anyway, escalation is still a threat. And then I wanted to go over some of my key charts that I have shown of late, which is this growth tech rally continues to outperform. We got above that 2.075 in my growth tech rotation. We've gotten above 0. We could peter out and come back down and kind of retest this lower channel. But for right now, that has been outsized, as you know. And then hardware, semis have had their most dramatic increase ever since June of 2000, actually, where they've had this 18-day consecutive gain, et cetera. Anyway, you can see this divergence that's forming in my software hardware ratio. And down here, MACD kind of losing some energy. We'll see if it taps out, rolls over, or what have you. But you can see that's bullish on price action, bearish on momentum. Anyway, wanted to update those key charts because I've been showing those every day, but also update some mechanical flows over fundamentals. CTAs are pretty much satiated and they have some fading to do, which means the bigger risk is now starting to form. Doesn't mean this week, but into May to June timeframe, they have more to sell than buy. Anyway, potential pension selling is going to be front loaded in the week because the month ends in a few days. So month end, it just means rebalancing 23 billion of pension. So if you see a little dip down to 7,100, 7,000, this can be a contributing factor. In the meantime, you've got a big floor at 69.50, which is expected to hold. So we might tag it, but the floor is really 7,000. But they are buying lots of June protection, like lots of June protection. And this is part of the midterm playbook crash up into correction that I talked about a few weeks ago. And then Tom Lee followed and said the same exact thing, which was kind of cute. Anyway, right now we've got a tight range. We've got a lot of earnings and economic data. We've got a sticky VIX in the 18 area. We need a spike above 2150 to really get bears to pay attention. And we still do have mechanical flow. Back on the 6th, when I warned upside calls or call spreads in Mag 7 names are cheap, that is no longer the case. We have a put call of 0.53, which is the most call heavy reading in many months. Protection is cheap and the crowded trade is long. So that makes it into a fragile upside. And I talk about why that is. And we'll talk about that a little bit later in detail, but doesn't mean that we're just going to come right back down. It means that the market is open and my alerts are going crazy. And it means that the upside is getting more and more concentrated. Wall Street Journal's out excluding the Magnificent Seven stocks, Broadcom, Alphabet, Amazon, Apple, Meta, Microsoft, and Nvidia. The market value of the S&P is actually down. So these are the 7 stocks that continue to lift the market. We know this concentration rally forever. There is some broadening out in some names. We'll look for those, obviously. Hardware to software, also within the sectors like quantum or memory. I mean, there are all kinds of other plays that have yet either gone too high, like the memory, or haven't quite come up from the bottom, which in large part, we'll see if we get a little bit of breadth expansion in some of these tech names. This was historic. So you've got 2000, year 2000 highs. Consecutive gains are unprecedented. The money flows, even in the past few years, unprecedented. That was just through April 16th. You get the idea. 50% gain in 1 month by the SOX. And that is not normal unless you look at the year 2000, where the SOX nearly doubled in the final 6 weeks from late January to early March. Get the idea? And Paul Tudor Jones warning, there is no training, classroom or otherwise, that can prepare for trading the last third of a move, whether it's the end of a bull market or the end of a bear market. It's good to keep that in mind. Anyway, we also have, during all this extravaganza, tech has been getting sold by U.S. long-short hedge funds. That's important. I've seen some selling underneath the surface. In other words, they're taking these gains off the table or the chase. They're not outstaying their welcome. Pigs get slaughtered, all that. And basically, the sell in May doesn't work except in midterm years. So 1 out of 4 years, you have a chance of a stronger pullback in May, probabilistically. And this is where I keep reminding, if we get any disappointment whatsoever in the earnings this week in hyperscalers, and or Iran escalation continues, and or the supply shocks that are not priced in, et cetera, we're not going to get that May 12th birthday rally. It's going to be the opposite. So keep that in mind. Also, Jason's warning, he's in Volland Slack channel, that we have some June bearish positioning that is massive. So his words, overall, options market have barely changed, with June presenting as a massive bearish month. So we've gone from really hot and heavy. Doesn't mean we're going to turn tail and dump, but it definitely bears watching that this is a concentration rally that can get interrupted this week. And more signs are forming that this fragile rally has some exhaustion coming in.
Join Club to trade with Samantha. Scan this QR code or click the link in the description.